Hi, kindergarten. Today's topic is composting, and it is one of my favorite topics because I actually do it in my real life. Our first word is compost. Compost is a mixture of decaying food and other natural things, like leaves and grass clippings, that eventually turns into soil. So, if you don't eat your vegetables, you can put it in a compost bin outside and eventually it will turn into soil. Leftovers are uneaten food that remain after a meal. So, like maybe after eating a piece of bread, you just didn't really want the crust. So, this would be leftover. Then we have nutrients. Nutrients are things needed by living things to grow and stay healthy, such as vitamins and minerals. So, we stay healthy when we eat foods that are full of nutrients. Last but not least, we have process. A process is a series of steps taken to do something. So, for example, when you follow a recipe step by step, that is a process. Okay, so we have our beautiful little earth here again. Now, I want to remind you that we've been learning about recycling and we've been learning about reusing and reducing our use of things. Well, today you're going to hear a read aloud about another type of recycling. Instead of learning how to recycle cans, bottles, or paper, like in the previous read alouds, you're going to learn about how to recycle certain kinds of leftover food. This type of recycling of leftover foods is called composting. Just like other recycling, the process of composting starts with sorting things into different groups. Instead of sorting bottles and cans into bins, people sort leftover foods according to whether the food can or cannot be composted. Now, in this read aloud, you're also going to hear about the other steps involved in composting and how leftover food eventually changes into rich soil that can be used to grow healthy plants. Composting is one way to pitch in and help the earth stay clean. There are so many different ways that people can pitch in to keep the earth clean and healthy, so I'm excited that we're learning about some of them. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and read this story. You're going to hear about the Smith family. That's a family that composts. Listen carefully and try to remember each step in the composting process. Not all foods can be recycled and composted, so listen carefully also to figure out which foods people should and should not put in the compost pile. Okay, so what do you see on this picture? Earth here. Once again, I've asked an artist friend of mine to help teach you an important lesson. She drew a picture of me covered with all different kinds of vegetables and plants. Why? This will help remind you that you can get everything you need in order to thrive and survive from me, good old Earth. Even if you don't live on a farm, you can still make a little vegetable garden or grow a few potted plants, whether you want to grow flowers, vegetables, or both. You probably know that vegetables are very good for your body and that there's nothing healthier than a vegetable that you grow in your own garden. Did you know that Mr. Malcolm actually grows food in his yard? I need to start growing some plants on my balcony because I don't have a backyard. Okay. Plus, gardens are good for the earth. They provide food for bees and other animals. Do you remember that when we talked about natural resources and trees, we talked about how trees take in the dirty air and then put out fresh, clean air afterwards. Gardens also help keep the air a little cleaner and the earth a little prettier. Today, I want to tell you about a special kind of recycling that's good for you. Good for your garden and good for the earth. Once again, my artist friend has made some pictures to go along with the story I'm about to tell. Meet the Smiths. As you can see, the Smiths prepared a dinner of spaghetti, bread, and salad. After everyone has finished eating dinner, it will be time to clean up. They made a lot of spaghetti and salad, so they'll have some leftovers. Leftovers are the uneaten foods that remain after a meal. Mrs. Smith will put these leftovers in reusable containers and then in the refrigerator for lunch or a snack the next day. But some of the leftovers can't be eaten. What will the Smiths do with these leftovers? They have a cleanup plan that is friendly to the earth and good for their garden. It's Mr. Smith's job to clear the table. He puts the trash into the garbage can and he scrapes bits of spaghetti, tomato sauce, and salad into a small pail. Then the youngest Smith child, Jamie, adds vegetable scraps left over from making the salad, such as carrots and cucumber peelings, or the skins peeled off the carrots and cucumbers, celery leaves, and loose pieces of lettuce. Jamie could throw these in the garbage, but instead he puts them in the pail. This leftover food won't end up in a landfill. But do you have any idea what will happen to it? Jamie's brother, Chris, takes the container outside and dumps it into a large bin. What is going on in there? Is Chris making leftover soup outside? Did the Smiths love their leftover food scraps so much that they keep a pile of it in their backyard? Actually, the answer is yes. The Smiths do love their leftover food scraps. You see, the Smiths know that if they put food scraps into a bin to make compost, they will be rewarded in at least 2 ways. First, they won't have to send as much garbage to the landfill. That is something they can feel good about. By composting, they're being friendly to the earth and not loading the planet up with trash. Second, if they keep adding to their compost pile and taking good care of it, then they'll end up with a pile of soil full of nutrients for the garden. It's needed for their plants to grow healthy and be healthy. The soil that comes from composting is called compost, and it's very good for plants. Putting compost on plants is like feeding them super vitamins. The compost is full of nutrients, and it makes the plants grow stronger and healthier. Okay, the Smiths are careful to add only materials that make good compost. They do not add meats or oily food like butter, and these kinds of foods can make the compost smell really bad and attract rodents and other wild animals. So, what kinds of foods should you not put in the compost? Yeah, like butter. Rotten fruits and vegetables, including leftover Halloween jack-o'-lanterns and eggshells and coffee grounds, are perfect for composting. The Smiths also add leaves, grass clippings, and other stuff from the yard that they mix with the leftover foods. What foods can go in the compost bin? Definitely. I don't know about that. That doesn't look like compost to me. Every week or so, the Smiths stir the compost around with a rake or pitchfork, and when it's particularly dry, they water the pile with a garden hose. Then the sun begins to shine, and the pile heats up. With the warm heat from the sun and the water, it's almost like cooking everything that's in the compost pile. Heat and moisture make the materials in the compost bin break down even faster. Another way of saying that the materials break down is to say that the materials decay, rot, or decompose. Some people even add worms to their compost bins to eat the old food and turn it into the garden soil even faster. Worms are nature's own recyclers. After a few weeks, the food in the compost bin won't look like food anymore. It'll look like rich, nice, dark soil. When the compost is ready, Mrs. Smith scoops a shovel from the bin. She puts the compost around a new tomato plant she has planted in her garden. The roots of the tomato plant begin to take in water and food from the composted soil. Soon the plant will grow strong and healthy, thanks in part to the nutrients from the compost. A couple of months later, the tomato plant is big and healthy and full of nice red tomatoes. Jamie helps his mom pick some of the tomatoes on the plant. And what do you suppose happens next? What happens next is that the Smiths use the tomatoes to make a salad. And what do you suppose they do with the leftovers from that salad? Well, they toss them in the compost pile, of course, so the process can start all over. Wow, what a cool story. And guess what? Maybe later on this week, I'll show you my compost and what I do to compost in the city. See you later, kindergarten.